All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast with Dan John. Dan, I'm like covered. This is going to sound weird, but I'm covered in your material. I've got before we go, I've been revisiting this. I want to talk about a little bit in this book today. This is a real gem here. This one's a real gem.
Least,
and also,
no one buys it. Absolutely nobody buys the book.
My Lanta. Well, we're gonna fix that on this episode because we want to make sure everyone gets a copy. And then also, I saw that you're a legendary strength coach, explains his secret to the hip hinge in men's health. Dan John being called appropriately a legendary strength coach in men's health. So where do we begin? How about we start with this article, Mr. Legendary Strength Coach? This is a pretty cool thing to see.
Well, as a legendary strength coach, it would be nice if Men's Health would at least ask permission to take my work and repackage it and sell it. That would be nice.
That's funny. Is that what they did?
Yeah, ever since Adam and Mike and those guys left, Men's Health is so they go in and they and I'm fine with it because, you know, like Brian told me, he goes, all advertising is good advertising, but this is the third time in 3 weeks that an author's gone in, watched my video, taken quotes out of my video, and then hyperlinked it to all kinds of other things. You know, there's no, and one of them, they even cut back the "Hi, I'm Dan John" from Dan John University. And
so that's super lame. They're using your material to promote their stuff, right?
Yeah, and then at the bottom is like, there's this guy, I don't necessarily, well, it doesn't matter, but it's like the 2 most important exercises you do. It's like the freaking burpee. Folks, take the burpee as cutting edge. Honestly, sprint out of my way when I come. It's a garbage exercise. So, you know, I appreciate it. The one video, the one you're talking about, I believe had, as last count, 70,000 views. And lots of people watch through the whole thing. You know, trying to explain to people what a hinge is. You know, now I have people start in the ground and we just do that kneeling hinge, you know, where so you're on both knees, you're staying tall, then you push your butt back. So that's a squat or that's a hinge, depending on what happens with your knees. Then we stand up and for the hinge, I put your feet on weights. For the squat, I put your heels. Check. For the hinge, I put your toes on weights. For the squat, I put your heels on weights. And then we do the same movement, and one turns into a hinge with the hamstring stretching, and the other turns into a squat. Well, the problem with the hinge is if you go too far, you begin to, like if you're folding a towel, you know, it just kind of flops over. Mm-hmm. So hinging is fine, flopping is where people get in trouble. But if you cut, the way they're cutting and pasting them, it seems to me like I'm worried more people get confused. But and then I show the magic drill, which out of context, it's just it'd be like if you went to discus camp, the 7-day discus camp, and took a video of a session where everyone's throwing left-handed badly, and think that's the whole week, you know?
Right.
The opposite hand, you know.
Now, you used to, if I remember rightly, didn't you used to have a column for men's? Was it Men's Health or Men's Fitness? What was it?
Yeah, Men's Health, and then they got new editors, and they fired all the editors, fired me, but it's funny they you know, and I really enjoyed the column. In fact, we turned some of those columns into Medium articles, which I find interesting because Medium wants to charge me to see my own articles, which I've always found interesting. I did for better part of 2 years. I had a weekly column, and honestly, sometimes, and gentle listener, when you write for a magazine, they will post the article, and then a week later, kind of repost it somewhere else. So it's real hard to find them. And then because the link I had is now a dead link. So if you go like through Wandering Weights, I think at the beginning I used to post my Men's Health, and I think those are all dead links now. You can't really find them.
Right. Who owns Men's Health? Is that Rodale? Do you know?
Rodale, yeah. Remember didn't you go with me to Rodale that day?
I don't think so.
There was a Pat Flynn trip I made to what was the name of your town? You have a great name for that town. Prince of Russia?
Oh, not Prince of Persia. That's a video game. King of Prussia.
King of Prussia, yeah.
That's right,
and
yeah.
Rodale is its own little campus. And I mean, they probably publish, I mean, almost, it just seems like gardening, bicycling, I mean, every shape, I don't know if they do shape, but lots of female fitness, lots of males fitness, bicycling, jogging, home and garden. They have when you walk in, they have really quite a bookstore there of their
right.
products. It's kind of fun to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But all
yeah.
the got fired, which is too bad because Mike Easter, Adam Campbell, those are smart guys. They spent some time here at the home when I had a special forces group here. So I had special forces and the editors of Men's Health at parties for a couple nights in a row. It was really, really an interesting couple of nights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you had the guys who would talk about khaki pants, flat and flashy, and then you'd have a guy talking about when he was getting shrapnel taken out of his face, with chopsticks. Yes, kind of a different world,
Interesting dynamic. All right, so the good old days when you used to have your column, I remember reading that column with a great interest. But now we shall direct the readers to Wandering Weights, your wonderful weekly email. What's the, real quick, Dan, what's the best website for them to get on your email list these days?
DanJohn.net.
Okay.
Or otpbooks.com. Thank you for even mentioning it. Wandering Weights is a weekly newsletter where I talk about my life a little bit. I always reference Pat and I always have our link here. Link to the podcast, and then there's a review what's what happened, and then on my website for the week, usually a lot. And then I go around the web and I find articles of interest to me. Sometimes it's chess articles, sometimes it's how to win at Connect 4, sometimes it's geography or
it's fun. It's a fun email list to be on. It really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do have fitness, strength, health stuff, but as you'll know, Pat, it's tougher and tougher and tougher to recommend fitness articles online as they, it's the number. It's 7 ways to terrorize your tricep. It's 4 surprising ways to get ripped in a weekend. And it's always like sleep, eat veg. I mean, you get these, is it clickbaiting? I believe they call it clickbait.
Right, yeah.
Where they have this great title when you get into it. 7 ways to improve your productivity at work. 1, go to bed earlier. It really?
Yeah.
Really.
All sizzle, no steak. It's all sizzle, no steak. I agree. I cannot remember the last time, and I don't know if this speaks bad of me, that I've read a fitness article online. I just don't. I just never read online fitness articles. I really don't. Mm-hmm.
That's why I tend to deep dive when I find somebody that I like yourself or Rusty Moore. A lot of people get in my grill because I recommend Greg O'Gallagher. But Rusty Moore, Greg O'Gallagher, yourself, there's some others. You guys have this vision, this focus of things that, as a guy from the world of performance, I don't necessarily have. So when I deep dived into the work of Rusty Moore, he's yacht body. People are saying, well, why are you reading that stuff? It's about, because I don't know any of it. I don't know how to get a figure model looking better in a week. I don't know. I don't know the first thing about that. I don't know how to prepare myself for a photo shoot. It's interesting because in a way, isn't it? A photo shoot is performance, isn't it?
It is. And we always appreciate your reading recommendations. I know we talked about Matthew-tone last week, but I want to talk about your book this week. And speaking of numbers, I see a numbered chapter here, but I think in Dan John fashion, we always get at least as much steak as sizzle. Often we get a lot more steak than sizzle. And like I said, this book is really, it's a treasure trove. There's just a lot of great stuff in here. I was happy I decided to revisit it. 9 great ideas to improve your workouts. I really enjoyed that chapter. And 4 ways to fire up your work capacity. Yeah. But there's but it's great stuff. It's okay to have a catchy headline, but you're right. It's at least try and live up to the expectations, which I think you always do. Give us, before we dive into either of these two chapters, Dan, give us the background on this book. You said that it's sadly, you said this is the one that nobody buys. But
Yeah.
this is the one everybody. This is, I mean, people should buy all your books at the end of the day. But
Well,
give us the background of this one. Mm-hmm.
so when it goes all the way back to meeting my brother volunteering to help at a strongman contest years and years ago. Do you have time for this? And my brother, there was a Santa Cruz strongman contest, partially sponsored by Dave and Larry Draper. And my brother, they needed volunteers, so my brother showed up, who's a lunatic, but he's my lunatic. And
right.
So they need someone to bring all the stuff back on every strongman event. So Gary's probably around 60. And he just doesn't stop working all day long. And finally, Larry Draper asks Dan Martin, who is that guy? And Dan says, well, that's Dan John's brother. And Larry famously said, well, who's Dan John? So Dan John that weekend does a deep dive on my work, pings me an email, says, can we sell your DVDs? And then she said, do you want to compile this stuff into a book? And that became Never Let Go.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go is Never Let Go Part 2. Hey, I'm getting some feedback. Is there
it's probably mine. Hold on one sec.
Sorry, it's just annoying enough. But
how's that? Does that sound better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oddly enough, this new microphone I have, it has to have like one freak out episode per episode. So hopefully that it should be done now. I got to figure out what's going on with that. But if it starts up again, please let me know. So anyway, sorry. Continue.
And so Never Let Go became probably, San Francisco Examiner called it the greatest fitness book of all time, which is pretty high praise. That's a high standard, the best, and we try to kind of put lightning back in that bottle with Before You Go, and it just never caught on. Some people say it's the way we edited it. Some people say it's just, I say the same things all the time. But I just think it's the nice thing about it, if you have those two books, you have enough bathroom rating for the next, you'd get cholera and be fine,
Well, not only that, but it's one of those books where you can almost open it up randomly, and you're going to find something that you can immediately learn and use in here. So I wanted to talk about, because we haven't talked about work capacity in a while.
Sure.
And you have some really good ideas in here of ways to fire up your work capacity. So let's talk about it. What is work capacity? Why does it matter? And then maybe we could go through a couple of your training ideas in this book.
No, you have it out. I don't. So would you be?
I know. I know. I should never expect people to remember what's in their books because I never remember.
The second you say it, I'll be like, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So you talk about groundwork. You quote Ken Shamrock and his book, which we talked about before, which is awesome. Drags, loaded carry sprints, simplifying complexes, using complexes, and the deprivation effect. So those are the 4 training tools that you recommend for improving work capacity.
Honestly, if I was to say what, when I now see I'm helping a 7th grade football team, which is kind of fun for me. And the number one thing you'll see is that the kids don't have the ability to get up and down off the ground. And so when they get knocked down, they're done. If they miss a tackle and hit the ground, the whistle will blow and they'll still be getting back up off the ground. So it's interesting because as stupid as those things called grass drills we did for American football are up downs, the coach says up and you run in place, and says down and you throw yourself to the ground, up, you run in place, down, and you try to rest while you're down, and it just kills you. But what it does is it does truly make you a better football player, because it's the same thing in the martial arts. Knock down 7, get up 8. Because I had taken judo as a kid. In fact, I can watch it in the video I have in my last football game. I get knocked down and I roll in. I'm back into the play within a second, because of the martial arts training. So yeah, groundwork, loaded carries is another one. Complexes, all of these tend to have more than. My knock on the bodybuilding mentality is what muscle does this build? And when someone does farmer walks for the first time, very often they'll turn and go, oh, that builds the traps. And I'll be like, well, yeah, I'm sure it does. But, you know, it also charges up your ability to do more stuff. All you need to do is help a friend move into a house one day and just realize what carrying, even from that extreme you have when you help someone. So you've got the big crazy couch, you got the damn mattress, you know, which keeps flopping everywhere. And then you've got all those boxes that weigh between, you know, a massive box that weighs 2 pounds, a tiny box that weighs 100. And then at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, that's work capacity. Do you want my definition of work capacity again?
Yeah, please. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay. So I was out with a guy at breakfast one time, and he was a DPT, and doctor of physical therapy, and he said, how helpful have we been in your recoveries? I said, you guys are really good in red. Help me get out of the bed, showing me how to use crutches, help me with the walker, standing by my side during the drills. And you guys are really good later on when you say you're good to go. It's that middle section. So we called it red, yellow, and green. And for me, the yellow section is when you build back the person's, so you've had a total hip replacement, you had a knee replacement. We're talking about big surgeries, a spinal thing. The yellow is when you rebuild work capacity. And here's what work capacity is. You're shopping for Thanksgiving dinner. You come home and you have 18 bags of groceries. To get into your house, you have to go up 10 steps, not 10 flights of steps, but 10 steps. The bags weigh 5 to 10 kilos, 10 to 25 pounds. How are you going to bring them in the house there, Patrick? Well, if you're Dan John, you take all 18 and you do one flight.
That's right. We don't take second trips at the Flynn household here, Dan.
Someone else listening would say, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
It really is.
I would do 18. Okay. If you do, okay, so I'm going to do 10 steps and you're going to do 180. The matrix that allows you to do either the 1 load or the 18 load or the 6, the 5, the 3, the 2, whatever. And I don't even know how many different ways of doing those 18 bags are, but it's a lot. The ability to do the more and more ways you can do the bags is what I consider work capacity. If the only way you can get them into the house is carry them all to the base of the steps, lock the door, they sit at the base of the steps for a couple hours, and then you carry one up the flight of stairs, you carry the next up, you rest for an hour. That's radically different than making those quick 18 loops or the one big loop. Mm-hmm. So the matrix of all that is what I consider work capacity. Work capacity is the answer to physical questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
yeah, I like that because we can see within that simple everyday example that there are different demands that we could impose on ourselves. Some are, a little heavier. Some are a little bit lighter, but more extended, and being able to meet the variety of those demands is a demonstration of a person's work capacity, right? Mm-hmm.
I learned, I think I was a junior in high school, maybe it was a senior, but it was one of those two that I learned not to celebrate interception return for touchdowns anymore. Because I was on the defensive team. And if we did a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, you lose your mind because that is a game-changing event. But as a defender, so I'm out there playing defense, and then of course we run into the end zone. We have this big celebration. Well, I was on the PAT team, so then I had to line up and block on the PAT. But I was also on the kickoff team, so I had to do a 40, 50-yard sprint right after. And then I was back on the field playing defense. Well, after the celebration, the sprints, and now I'm on defense. So stop celebrating. Yay, we scored. Let's line up for the PAT because you would learn. And here's the funny thing. I had a high work capacity, but I also had to be realistic that the more I celebrated, the worse it was going to be on that damn kickoff in, a minute, 30 seconds. So right. Work capacity is the ability to do all those things. That when people ask me, I want my son to be a good high school football player, I always tell them, we'll get him on the wrestling team, and then I want him to do the hurdles in the spring. And they're like, well, I thought we were talking about football. And well, my first thought is, yeah, well, I want him to be able to get up and down off the ground and have some solid sprint techniques and some capacity for both. Well, why don't you compete in two sports that hyper demand it?
Right. Yeah. So we've talked about this before, where the idea of variety and consistency, for strength, we probably want more consistency than variety, some variety, right? Maybe we'll call it specialized variety. But for the conditioning, and it seems like even when we're talking about work capacity, that's where variety becomes, we want to use more intelligent variety for the sake. We want to keep our body under a sort of, I hate to use this term because it's become so cliched, but the idea of a muscle confusion, like it isn't complete nonsense, right? Like the idea of like keeping your body under these surprising demands. I just wouldn't use it in the infomercial sense, right? That if you're getting really good at a very specific conditioning effort, it's probably worthwhile to vary that conditioning effort to make sure that you are maintaining a high and broad work capacity, right?
The word I've slammed two words. So snap to me is hitting somebody. That's throwing. Snapping my fingers. Snap is when you hit somebody, when you strike, when you kick something. And on the other hand is this thing called work capacity. Well, I shove those two words together into snapacity. And so what I'm trying to build with an athlete is snapacity. But you make a good point, because the exercises in the weight room that help on snap are the snatch, the clean, the deadlift, the swing. And the way you get better at swings is swings. The snatch is the snatching, deadlift is deadlift. And the way you get better at work capacity is, like you said, today's groundwork day, tomorrow's going to be prowlers, the next day is sled work, we're going to do hills the next day. That seems to build. So variety does seem to slide over to the work capacity side. That's actually pretty illuminating.
And you talk about complexes too, and there's a way to use variety where you can focus on a lot of the same stuff, right? You use a lot of the same ingredients, you just cook it in different ways. Right. So, I mean, you have a complex, and complex has some pushes and some pulls and some hinges and some squats, but you can execute those in different ways. You can use 30 by 30 time sets, shorter intervals. You can do armor building, right? So a lot of the same material, but a somewhat different form.
I think that's what confuses people sometimes. That's the sense I get when I read comments on my YouTube channel, is that they missed what you just said there. This little complex is a tool. It's a hammer, and it's really good for driving in nails. But you know what? It's also really good for pulling them out. So even though you can use this tool in different ways, like the armor building, I think is a great conditioner. Great, folks. That's 2 double kettlebell cleans, 1 double kettlebell press, 3 double kettlebell front squats. And you just kind of keep swinging back through that. You can use it as a great finisher, but you can also use it as a standalone workout. And you can also use it when somebody is a little press deficient, but has got legs that can go on forever. Mm-hmm. So one thing, multiple uses. Can you get really strong doing the armor building? Probably. Can you get in good conditioning? Yeah, I would say without question. I like where your head's at here. I like this. I like this idea that, so variation does help work capacity a lot. But you also have to have the consistency of showing up, the consistent variation of work capacity.
Right, and the idea of matter and form, it's good. Well, it's sort of an Aristotelian principle, isn't it, right? Yeah. So with different forms, we can have different outcomes even with the same material. I mean, think of a piano scale, right? If I have the form of a C major scale, I can have the same material, same number of notes, but if I start on A, it's a minor scale. It's a different outcome, different tonal quality. So I think there's a parallel here to exercise. We can have the same material, right, a lot of the same exercises, but we can arrange it in different ways to produce different outcomes.
Right. And that's why I think, like, that grass drill, that, up-down drill, you know, even though it is archaic and probably people would look at it, you know, anybody who's never played the game would look at it and say it has no value. But when you play the game, it has great value. Having said that, if you do it every single day, your athletes will turn it off. Your
Right.
athletes just, you know, it's, I think sleds, in American football, there's these machines called sleds. And most schools don't use them anymore. But I still think they're great value because it is a great conditioning tool. It's a prowler. It's just a prowler.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely value in using different material as well. And that's the kind of, I guess, the balance. So many things just come down to balance. The balance of how much variety you use to achieve the outcomes that you want. And it just seems right to me to say that when it comes to strength and hypertrophy, we're probably going to be using less variety there than we will when it comes to conditioning and work capacity. There's still elements of variety for each, but it's sort of a sliding scale.
You know, maybe make a note. In fact, even our listeners can help out, but I like where your head's at. I'm thinking about the discus throw, because what you want is you want consistent technique in the throw, and then you want to get as strong as you possibly can, but it would be nice that there was variation on the strength side just for your own mental health. You know, I could put together, ladies and gentlemen, here's a perfect throwing program. Those bounce deadlifts, you know, pad bench press, where you put a pad on the bench press. Rack deadlifts, bounce bench press, hang snatch. There, that's all you'll ever need to do your entire career. Good luck on 6 months of that. You'll lose your being. You know, even though it's perfect, it's not. But even though it's perfect, you'd lose your mind, and you can't help but tweak your technique because otherwise you get bored. Hey, speaking of a great guitarist passed this week, Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen, you know, God rest him. Obviously, huge influence for me. Eddie Van Halen, AC/DC, and Van Halen. Those were the two bands that got me into music and guitar.
Open Culture was sharing with some of his patents for. He made at least 16 different things for the guitar.
Like, you want to talk about a generalist. Now I'm regretting that I didn't highlight him in my book. I mean, most people think of him as a hardcore specialist, and there's no doubt that he was a virtuoso, right? But he was somebody who could borrow ideas from other areas and bring them into his area. That it was so, like, his tapping technique that he's famous for, right? Well, he really kind of lifted that from various jazz musicians, but he put it into a context that it was never before heard of. And that's who you think of now as Eddie Van Halen, as the guy with his famous, you know, tapping passages and eruption and stuff like that. So he was a man who had incredible depth, but he also could think like a generalist. And same thing, he was a guy who wanted to get certain effects on guitars that he just couldn't normally get. So what does he do? He starts Frankensteining the guitars.
Yeah.
And just building these ugly brute instruments. I mean, there's few things better than somebody coming on stage with a guitar that looks like somebody who just had their first year of woodworking class and just wipes the floor with everybody, right? With a smirk on his face.
Yeah. So bring us around. That is kind of what we're going to be taught. I mean, when you get into this area of, I love this, the words were variation and consistency. I don't want to say it's a yin-yang relationship because but it is a bit of maybe two test tubes. You know, you only have so much liquid, and you have to figure out the right way to go with consistency and variation. If you have nothing but variation, that would be a bizarre program. I don't know if you could do that. But if you had nothing but variation, sadly, you could have nothing but consistency. When interval training first came out, this American collegiate track coach decided that the 200 meters was the perfect distance, and he decided 3 days a week, I believe it was 200 meters, that was the workout everyone would do. He had no track team by the time the season came around because, you know, everyone was like, I just can't keep doing this. You know, he might have been right. He might have been right, you know, that the 200 meters done, timed, everyone is the perfect workout. I don't think it is, but there's no way we can handle that as creatures of intelligence. You know, we just something's got to give, man.
We need a little freshness every now and then, just even for our own sanity and our programming. Very good. So, Amazon OTP books, that the place to snag a copy of this beauty here, Dan?
OTP books. Now the thing is, if you go to OTP, you can also, there's a thing called the Dan John Collection where there's a bundle with, I think, Never Let Go and Before You Go and another one. And it's much, and you also get all the other things that go with it. So OTPbooks.com, I think. And just
fantastic. Yeah, pick this one up, guys. It's such a good book. A lot of great practical tidbits in here that I'm sure our listeners will enjoy. Shall we turn to some questions now?
Absolutely.
Dan? Okay, we're gonna take it from Instagram today because my inbox there has piled up somewhat. So let's empty it out. This one comes from Bloodstained Bull. It's about, I love usernames on Instagram. It's about easy strength. He says, I currently have a 28 kilogram and a 14 kilogram kettlebell. As of now, I'm doing easy strength, exclusively with kettlebells. Is this load appropriate for me who is a kettlebell beginner? And is it possible to maintain my gains with this load for the next 6 to 8 months? I am not able to get to a gym until then. I'm 5'9", 195 pounds.
Well, Bull, when I moved to California, all I had was my 28, and I did fine. The problem, so I put together an article called "Easy Strength for Kettlebells," and I regret it at the moment. People started asking questions. Easy strength is the idea of doing basically the same thing 5 days a week. And if I had the 28, I would do press, goblet squat, swing, something else, okay? And I could do that every single day of the week. And with me, I would play with those swing numbers up and down, and the press, just press every day, and I know how to do that. And goblet squat, or but so Bull, my concern is that you have a good toolkit. The 14 and 28 is a little bit odd, but you have a good toolkit. With the 14, you can snatch every single day of the week and, get some interesting gains from that. And with the 28, you can press and goblet squat if you can press it, or practice, hold it on the rack, hold it in the waiter, bring it down slow, that kind of thing. Yes, you have plenty of load. You have plenty of load, and it all happened. What's the biggest factor in your training right now is between your ears. How clever can you be with it? How can you outline a general idea of what you'd like to do for a 2-week period, and can you stick to it? And that's the big key, I think. Patrick?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. You are, of course, the inventor of Easy Strength, so no better man to get the advice from on that. So thank you, Bull. We appreciate the question.
And I love Easy Strength. I mean, I love it. But one of the things, a lot of people who, especially our beginners, they want to do it. And the truth is, for beginners, doing the same thing 5 days a week is really, really a good idea. But that's not what the industry says anymore. So I think it's perfectly fine for someone new to weightlifting to push, pull, hinge, squat, load, and carry every single training session. Well, probably forever, actually. But I think it's fine. The problem is you're just going to have to get used to what enough means to you. The word enough. That was enough for today.
Right. Very good. Okay. Next one comes from Jack85. I actually took this one on a little live stream yesterday, Dan, but I thought it was a good one to get your thoughts on. It's a common question we get about 2 exercise programs. Jack says, Pavel right now is only doing dips and swings. What would your guys' 2-move workout look like? So how do we feel about these 2-move workouts, Dan? And maybe let's think through this one.
Pavel can do dips.
I don't know. I
don't
know.
He could barely move his elbow last time I was with him at breakfast. Yeah. You'd have to. I'm shocked to hear that because I thought he was done with that elbow. But God bless him. Yeah, I love 2 workout programs. Ready? Use a barbell, snatch, and clean and jerk. Love it.
Beautiful. It's one of those. I was saying yesterday that because I know you've said when it comes to things like Simple and Sinister, I have not read Simple and Sinister. I haven't followed the programming, so I can't speak on it too much. But what I said yesterday, I'd be curious if you agree with this, Dan, is that the idea of a 2 exercise workout program, I think it serves as a useful thought experiment. Like if you could only take 2 exercises to a deserted island, what would they be? Or 2 desserts to a deserted island. It's good because it helps you gain some conceptual clarity of what your goals are and what's going to be effective and efficient. But like rarely, very, very, very rarely, if ever, could I see a situation where you couldn't add a 3rd exercise and be better off for it. You know what I mean?
4th and 5th, yeah.
Or a 4th and 5th, right? So good thought experiment, but in practice, long term, I get it. People are busy, they're time crunched. You want to focus and prioritize. But even with, and I know you've said this before, even with swings and get ups, fine exercises, I see no reason not to add some goblet squats, for example, right?
And why not do a push up while you're down there? Jack, it's a good question. We've faced this many times on this podcast. Like I said a few minutes ago, if you did I think it's called the towel bench press or the bounce bench press or something. The bounce bench press and the rack deadlift, you got your bounce bench press up to 800, your rack deadlift up to about 1,000. Yeah, you'd be strong, man. You would be very strong. Is it possible? There is advantages to moving to minimalist programs when you're working with an athlete or a person who's really got a lot of water under the bridge. Backing off. That's why I think it was 91 when the late Jorn Svensson and I had a conversation about this program we moved to. It was only lifting 2 days a week. I should bring that journal up sometime and talk about that. And so I moved to, if I remember, I snatched and front squatted 1 day a week and benched and cleaned the other day, and nothing less than 8 reps, even in the snatch and clean. And that regenerated my career so much. That got me into the 1 month a day idea again. That got me to the transformation program. Missing from those programs, of course, was loaded carries, and that's just because it hadn't come up yet. But so when you take an athlete, I'd been training 1991. That had been my 21st year of serious weightlifting. So by the time when I slid back, I had a pretty good foundation, and it really helped me. When I moved to minimalist programs in the 2000s, I had been training, I don't know, 30, 40 years, So when I made that minimalism choice then, it was amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's good context. So very good. Awesome. All right, let's go to another question. This one's a little bit more of a fun one. I don't know if we've done this one. We've talked about movies before, but M. Malov wants to know what our top 5 favorite movies are, Dan. So why don't I let you go first? I think you probably have your thoughts a little bit more structured on this than I do.
Well, I got to tell you, and Star Wars, not A New Hope, the actual Star Wars that I watched in the drive-in, Greg Winslow's Audi Fox. Star Wars was a total game changer for me. Fisher King and Robin Williams. I don't know how Robin Williams didn't get the Academy Award. Brigadoon, Gene Kelly, Sid Charisse, just watch it every single day of the week. Because I'm not 10. He gave me 5, so I have to kind of move things around a little bit in my orders. Moonstruck. It's the most. It is the most well-knitted film I've ever seen. Okay, and the last one, Patton. George C. Scott. It's an amazing film. There you go. Casablanca.
Beautiful. All right, we can do 6. That's totally fine. I'm hesitant to offer mine because if I do, I'll probably regret it immediately after. But I'll throw a few out. What's you know what? One hidden gem movie that I saw that almost nobody's heard about, but a very moving movie, kind of an odd movie, strange movie, is called Spring, Summer, Winter, Fall, Spring. I'm going to recommend that. I'm not going to say much about it, but check that one out. It's a different movie. It's a foreign film, but a very good coming of age story. I'll probably second the Star Wars. I'm a sucker for the nostalgia of Gladiator. I always like that movie. What else might I throw in there? We've talked about Bill Murray. I'm a Bill Murray fan. I think I got to put Stripes in there.
Okay, hold on one second. So, I'm sorry. What?
I started my.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry. Conversation with my wife there. Sorry. Bill Murray.
All good. Yeah, Bill Murray movies. I think he just came out with a new one. Actually, I think it's one of those. The problem with movies now is like you have all these different streaming services like Netflix and Apple and Disney. I think one of his new movie is like an Apple exclusive or something. It's like, what are you gonna do? Buy subscriptions to all these different places?
I just rewatched Rushmore, and his Wes Anderson work, A Lost in Translation, his serious work.
Yeah, Lost in Translation was a great one. I really enjoyed that one. Mm-hmm.
And you explain it to somebody while you're watching this film, and it's like, well, nothing really happens. But it's a great movie.
What was that other one that was kind of recent? Was it Hotel Budapest?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. I like that one too. Okay, so my list is kind of crappy, but I would need more time to think about that. But there's some starting ideas. Okay, what are this one comes from Newman Stripes. Other than brisk walking, what are some other of the quote slow burn, fat burning exercises somebody can do?
Well, you know what's interesting is that if you put a heart rate monitor on your walking, you'll quickly find when you play with certain things like I've been recommending ankle weights to people for a while, and they go, well, why? And I just say, well, do a heart rate monitor. Well, I don't get it. Have you done the heart rate monitor with the ankle weights? Well, no. Put them on, and all of a sudden there's this huge jump. So, and then of course I'm a big fan of the heavy hands with them, and the load I use is 3 pounds per hand and 5 on my ankles. So it's not a ton of load, Newman. But really, and you could probably get away with cans of soup or something like that, or something else. I mean, or 2 water bottles. But having the weight, it's physics. When I ruck, I can go up to 60 pounds, and my heart rate, my heart rate will go up certainly. But by having those heavy hands, since the weight is so far away from my the axis, that the load is, even though the load is only 3 pounds, the hit is much higher. So for me, I would say, and that's the order I tell people, ankle weights. Well, in the real world, heavy hands, because it's easier to find 2 pound weights, 3 pound weights than it is to find ankle weights. But ankle weights, heavy hands, heavy backpack, a ruck. Those are very gentle, very safe ways of getting your heart rate up. If you live in Utah, we have a thing called hiking, and the problem with Utah hills is that they're straight up. You have 2 choices. Well, there is no check. You always go up on a hike in Utah. It's always up. It's worth it, but it's always up. So if you can walk on hills. I also, I have a bike, weighs about 90 pounds. It's a cruiser. And riding a cruiser around is much more of a workout than riding a highly aerodynamic, thin-tired racing machine. If you can stand rowing, it's pretty good. But God, I find it to be the dullest thing in the world.
I'm with you there. Some people like it though, so it's good to throw that in the option bin.
If you have the ability to learn like Tai Chi, as I understand it, Tai Chi can be very good for your joints and your systems. So if that would be something you could look into. I had a woman one time explain to me Tai Chi, and after her quick explanation, I was like, I don't know why you'd ever have to go to China to learn it. It's just, she said when the hand goes this way, you lead with the wrist you said lead with the wrist. And I started doing that. She goes, that's it. How's that feel? I'm like, my God, I spend all this money going to these things and you just summarized everything.
That feels pretty good. Thank you.
It does feel good. I know. Lead with the wrist. Yeah. And then just practice. Then she was an older woman. She was probably in her 80s when I met her. And she did Tai Chi on a mini tramp. Because she had read somewhere that the mini tramp was good exercise. So she'd watch her shows, dancing in front of it.
Bouncing and leading with the wrist. I love it. Hey, you know,
this is
you're moving.
Ago, and if you told me she was still alive, I would believe you. Yeah. So there's
Absolutely. Better than just sitting and watching shows as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's sneak one more in here. User Nogis wants some ideas on favorite easy and tasty healthy meal options. I'll do mine really quick because I actually got a simmering upstairs. For me, it's just chili. Chili's easy to just make a bunch in bulk. Pretty easy. I find it extremely tasty, very easy to reheat. So especially in fall as the weather starts cooling down, that is my chilies of various chilies are my go-to.
So I was going to say soups and stews. Nogis is his name?
Yeah, NJOSC.
Okay, Nogis. There's two things I think you should have, and I'm actually going to give you a brand name. The first is a slow cooker of any kind, because then you can make chilies, soups, stews. You can make really interesting layered dishes where the vegetables and the meats taste stew-like, but okay. So slow cookers, and I got that book, 5 ingredient slow cooker meals with Tai Chi a little bit. But honestly, I go to the store and I buy a piece of meat and stew vegetables. They're available on the frozen counter. And then the other thing is the George Foreman grill. And the weird thing about the George Foreman grill is, I mean, we all make fun of it. The Office has a hilarious take on it in one episode. And that grill shows up in the famous one called the dinner party. If you look on the ground, you'll see the grill. But the George Foreman grill is that you can grill vegetables in your kitchen, and obviously you can do your protein too. But grilled vegetables are remarkably good. According to my son-in-law, they're actually probably better for you nutritionally too, which I did not know. And because the grilling brings up the sweetness of the vegetables, which is something you want to do. So if anyone were to say to me, Dan, you only have 2 things in your kitchen, okay? It'd be a George Foreman grill and a slow cooker. And
you can only take 2 things to the deserted island. Yeah, that's very good.
Someone's going to say, well, what about eggs? Well, I guess I'm not going to eat eggs unless I make egg casseroles in a slow cooker. I don't know. But again, I have a frying. I actually have more pieces. I like that question.
Yeah, it's a good one because I mean it's practical, right? A lot of times when people make less than ideal eating decisions because they're presenting, there's a barrier to convenience, right? So I like these questions because I'm the same way. We're all busy. We got stuff going on. So when it isn't shakes are always a saving grace for me. The simple one pot meals, right? Easy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. If you are in a life situation, I was talking to somebody about this the other day about when I worked at Juan Diego. We had a fridge in our office, which was very nice, and every Monday I would show up with a couple grocery bags and with all kinds of salad stuff and green beans and load it up, and I would live out of that. In hindsight, the smartest thing I did, and a lot of people don't know this, I also brought a George Foreman grill to the office. And so if we would have days where I would say to Coach Barbiero or even Coach Satura, hey, you want to do hamburgers for lunch? And we would, there in our office, we'd pull out those frozen quarter-pound patties, throw a couple of George Foreman, and then we would just make a big salad next to it. And not only is it a great memory, but it was pretty nutritious, considering.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So laugh all you want, but look who's laughing when all that fat's dripping off of that delicious meat, right?
Oh, and the fact that, we have, instead of going to a place that has a clown or a little girl with braids or, whatever, it was much cheaper, and I think the quality might have been better.
Yeah. So in college for me, the George Foreman Grill was perfect. It was perfect. I don't have one anymore, but I might go on. I think it's Amazon Prime Day, so it might be time to renew my.
They also have a really interesting one that we had at the office. It was the one that was actually had the little post, so it was a stand-up grill, so it took up no counter.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got pretty crafty. I feel like I was on the early end. I remember when those things first came out, and yeah, it was always great. I would throw chicken breast on there, meat, hamburgers, all of it. Yeah, fantastic little. Some gimmicks are actually worthwhile. That's the truth of things. There's some gimmicky things that really are worth the spend. I think the George Foreman Grill is one of them. Mm-hmm.
Grilling the vegetables on it is illuminating. Yeah, portobello mushroom.
Absolutely.
Really, I mean the full flat portobello mushroom. God, now I'm hungry, man.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, let's finish up here so you can get to eating. And what's new at Dan John University? What's coming down the pipeline? Anything else you want to announce or have the listeners know about?
Yeah, I just did a whole thing. One of my tests in Can You Go is stand on one foot. So I did a whole little video of going from standing on one foot as a 10-second test to helping someone like my age. So when I have an electric toothbrush, so it goes through 4 cycles. And so I stand on my left foot for the first one, my right foot for the second one, left foot for the third. Right? And why am I doing that? It's because at my age, it's important to practice balance on one foot. And then I have a series of like the speed skater drill I teach, the putting foot up on a box drill, the standing, the vertical windmills, part of vertical bird dogs. That's the second time I said that. It's just a whole series. I like it. I will be doing the whole Can You Go video. I had done it before. We had an audio issue. Nothing worse than an hour of your time blown because of audio, but that's just what happens, It's going well. The site's blowing up. It's very popular. I'm working. The interesting thing, Pat, is most of the videos I'm getting requested for are real beginner stuff. I mean, I'm talking about how do you get the kettlebells up there kind of questions.
Right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, it was nice because Brian's really good about reminding me that not everybody has been lifting weights since 1965.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I want to remind anybody who sends in questions. I don't mind answering the same questions over and over again because I understand and appreciate and am grateful that there are new listeners to this podcast all the time. So I, like you, Dan, it's a good reminder for me that, okay, maybe we've spoke to this question even just 2 weeks ago, but we have a new listener, which we're very grateful for, who hasn't heard that yet. So don't feel shy about submitting questions with the idea that it's too basic or something like that. We welcome all that stuff.
And then on the Dan John University podcast, someone said this week on a question, and I really appreciate it. He goes, the reason we ask you about other people's programs is they don't answer our questions. They're, when it comes to Simple and Sinister, Pavel won't answer. Quick and the Dead. Now he has a forum and he has a lot of people, but you get lost, and it's be nice if Pavel would just come in and say, no, this is what I know. Wendler does a good job with 531, but I answer a lot of his questions. Maffetone, as I understand it, doesn't answer questions. It doesn't have a Q&A. So yeah, I mean, the fact that we answer questions, now I'm starting to think it's a bit of an honor that I'm answering questions for other people because they don't.
Excellent. Yeah, very, very good. We love the questions. We appreciate them. So keep sending them in. And in the meantime, Dan John University, check it out, and also get on the wonderful email list, Wandering Weights.
Thank you. Hey, and if you could, do you want me to find it for you, that OTP bundle or?
Yes. So head over to the show notes at chroniclesofstrength.com. I'm going to put a link to that Dan John wonderful bundle package for the books. Go snag that up. Dan John will get me the link for that. And in the meantime, go check out the YouTube channel. I'm trying to kick the cobwebs off of the YouTube channel. We're putting the videos back up. So if you want to see Dan John's beautiful sparkling complexion, we can watch our faces talking to the microphones here if you want a visual element. I'm starting to upload some other workouts and stuff again. Dan John has inspired me to do more of the social media efforts. So we're doing that. So if you're on YouTube, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're on the podcast, same thing. We appreciate the shares, the reviews, all of it. So Dan John, thank you as always for being here. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, my friend. And I'll have that to you in just a minute. Okay.
See you next week.
All right, brother. Take care. Bye-bye.